In the Red Moon Saloon in Dust Creek, the air was thick with tobacco, sweat, and desperation. The auctioneer's hammer hung poised, ready to seal a grim fate, when every eye in the godforsaken room turned to the shadowed back corner. A man in a weathered hat, Ezra Blackwood, raised his calloused hand, silencing the saloon like a thunderclap halting a stampede. On a makeshift wooden platform stood Clara Montgomery, 19, her auburn hair catching the flickering lamplight. Her trembling hands clutched the torn fabric of her only dress, her presence on that stage a cruel payment for her dead father's gambling debts. The bidding had climbed to $30, with snake eyes Malachi, gold teeth gleaming in a predatory grin, certain he'd claimed his prize. But Ezra's raised hand changed everything. Ezra Blackwood hadn't spoken since entering the saloon 20 minutes earlier. He'd taken his usual spot in the shadows, nursing an untouched whiskey, his steel-gray eyes watching the horror unfold. Most in Dust Creek knew him as the hermit farmer living 5 miles out, a man broken by the fire that took his wife and daughter 3 years prior. What they didn't know was that Clara's face stirred a memory in him, a ghost from his past. Snake Eye's scarred face twisted into a scowl as he spotted Ezra. His mocking laugh cut through the smoky air. Well, looks like the ghost farmer wants to play. Ezra stood slowly, his 6-foot frame unfolding with the deliberate strength of a man who tamed the land with his hands. His weathered face betrayed no emotion, but his eyes made the room feel 10 degrees colder. From his coat pocket, he produced a leather pouch, the clink of coins echoing in the sudden hush. $50, he said, his voice rusty but resolute. The crowd stirred. $50 was half a year's wages for most. Clara's eyes widened, hope and fear warring within her. Was this stranger her salvation or something worse? Snake Eye's smile faded. He'd expected to win Clara for $30, unchallenged. Now, this silent farmer had doubled the stakes, and every outlaw in the room watched their leader's next move. Unknown to the saloon's patrons, Ezra carried secrets heavier than money, and Snake Eyes was about to learn how dangerous a quiet man could be. The outlaw's fingers drummed his gun belt, his pride stung. In Dust Creek, respect was earned with bullets, not dollars, and Ezra had just made him look weak. 60, Snake Eyes countered, his voice sharp as broken glass. Ezra didn't flinch. 75. A murmur rippled through the crowd, 3 months' wages tossed out like pocket change. Clara's knees nearly buckled, her future dangling on numbers shouted in a den of killers and drifters. Snake Eyes' jaw clenched. He controlled Dust Creek's mines, brothel, even the sheriff's badge, but $75 was more than he could spare on a whim, not with his men watching. His reputation was built on fear and blood, not losing auctions to dirt farmers. Then Jeremiah Cross, his right-hand man, whispered something that made Snake Eyes' scarred face split into a cruel grin. "Tell you what, farmer," he announced, voice carrying to every corner. "Let's settle this the Dust Creek way. You and me, outside, now. Winner takes the girl. Loser takes a bullet." The saloon erupted in shouts. A gunfight promised blood and gunpowder, better entertainment than any auction. Men scrambled for the doors, eager to witness what they assumed would be Ezra's slaughter. Ezra's hand brushed his hip, revealing a worn leather holster beneath his coat. Instead of fear, his eyes held a cold calculation that unnerved even hardened outlaws. "I didn't come here to kill anyone," he said quietly, his voice cutting through the chaos. "I came to buy that girl's freedom." Snake Eyes' laugh grated like nails on a coffin. "Freedom, boy. The only freedom in Dust Creek comes from a gun barrel. Pay with lead or gold, makes no difference to me." But Clara heard something in Ezra's voice the others missed: conviction. This wasn't about possession or lust, this stranger risked his life for her freedom, and she didn't even know his name. As the crowd surged outside, Clara caught Ezra's gaze. His eyes held no hunger, only a protective resolve that reminded her of her father before gambling and whiskey destroyed him. Snake Eyes strutted onto the dusty street, spurs jingling, relishing the crowd's attention. He'd killed 12 men in gunfights, their names carved into his pearl-handled Colt like trophies. Today, he'd add a 13th. Ezra followed, his steady gait that of a man who'd made peace with death. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as half of Dust Creek gathered to watch what they assumed was Ezra's funeral. "Last chance, farmer," Snake Eyes taunted. "Leave your money and crawl back to your cornfield. Maybe I'll let you live." But Ezra's steel-gray eyes held no fear, only focus. Snake Eyes noticed it, and a flicker of doubt crossed his face. "You look familiar, farmer. We met before." Ezra's voice was a whisper, but it carried like thunder. "Fort Apache, 7 years ago. You rode with the Crimson Ridge Gang." The color drained from Snake Eyes' face. Fort Apache was a massacre, 30 soldiers dead, a supply train robbed, witnesses silenced. One survivor, a young cavalry sergeant, had testified against 3 raiders. "You're him," Snake Eyes breathed. "The soldier who testified." "Sergeant Ezra Blackwood, 5th Cavalry," Ezra said, his damaged hand, missing 2 fingers, hovering near his Colt. "I remember your face when you shot my commanding officer in the back." The crowd sensed the shift. This wasn't just about Clara, it was justice, revenge, old wounds festering for years. Snake Eyes' confidence cracked. A fair fight against a trained soldier with a vendetta was suicide. His eyes flicked to his men in the crowd, giving a subtle nod. Clara's scream pierced the air as she spotted Jeremiah Cross raising a rifle from a rooftop. Her warning came too late. A shot cracked, but Ezra dove, the bullet splintering a post behind him. Rolling smoothly, he fired, dropping Cross with lethal precision. Snake Eyes cursed, reaching for his Colt, but years of soft living slowed him. Ezra's second shot shattered the outlaw's wrist, sending his gun spinning into the dust. "Should have fought fair," Ezra said, advancing, his Colt trained on Snake Eyes' chest, but the trap wasn't over. 2 more of Snake Eyes' men emerged from the general store, rifles aimed at Ezra's back. Clara watched in horror as the street became a killing field. Then, impossibly, Doc Patterson, the elderly physician, stepped into the line of fire. "Enough," he shouted, clutching his medical bag. "This man saved my grandson at Fort Apache. I won't watch him murdered by cowards." One by one, townsfolk emerged, Martha Jenkins, young Tommy Wright, even Sheriff Morrison, who drew his weapon on Snake Eyes' men. "Doc's right," the sheriff said, voice shaking. "We've lived in fear long enough." Snake Eyes clutched his bleeding wrist, staring at the rebellion. "Kill me, and my brother's gang will burn this town to ash." Ezra grabbed him, pressing the Colt to his temple. "Your brother's dead, hung in Tombstone last month. I watched." The lie was smooth, breaking Snake Eyes' hold over the town. His men wavered, rifles lowering as they faced an armed, defiant Dust Creek. "Here's the deal," Ezra said. "You and your men ride out and never return. In exchange, I won't tell the territorial marshal where to find you." But Clara saw the cunning in Snake Eyes' eyes, a cornered animal plotting his next move. His broken laugh echoed. "You think mercy makes you a hero, soldier? You don't know what her daddy owed money for." Clara's face paled. "Don't listen, Ezra, please." Snake Eyes grinned, blood flecking his lips. "Tell him, darling. Tell him about the Chinese workers your papa sold to the mine owners, the families that died in those tunnels because of him." The words struck Clara like blows. Her father's debts weren't from cards or whiskey but from betraying innocence to Snake Eyes' operation. Men, women, children had died because of his greed. "That's why she's here," Snake Eyes wheezed. "Blood debt. Her daddy sold souls, so she pays the price." Clara's eyes met Ezra's, pleading. If he killed Snake Eyes now, he'd become a murderer before the town. If he showed mercy, the outlaw would return with vengeance. Doc Patterson stepped closer. "Son, sometimes mercy is delayed justice. Sometimes justice wears mercy's mask. But Clara intervened, stepping between them. If my father's sins condemn me, I'll bear that burden. I won't let you become a killer to save me. Her voice rang with strength. Ezra risked his life for my freedom. I won't let that be poisoned by more death. Ezra lowered his gun. You have 1 hour to ride out. If I see you again, mercy's off the table. Snake Eyes' smile was venomous as he staggered to his horse. But Clara's blood froze. He was heading toward the schoolhouse where the town's children hid. The schoolhouse, she whispered, horror dawning. Ezra spun as Snake Eyes kicked open the door, revealing 8 terrified children and Miss Henderson. The outlaw drew a hidden derringer. New deal, farmer. I take 1 kid as insurance. Follow, they die. Let me ride out, maybe I don't paint these walls red. Clara acted without thinking. Take me instead, she called, stepping forward. Leave the children. Ezra grabbed her arm, but she pulled free. This started with my father's debts. It ends with me. Snake Eyes hesitated, weighing the offer. Then Sarah Wright, 7 years old, stepped forward. Mister, you're hurt bad. My mama says hurt people do mean things, 'cause they're scared. Her innocence pierced the tension. For a fleeting moment, something human flickered in Snake Eyes' eyes. That moment was enough. Ezra fired, knocking the derringer from Snake Eyes' hand. The outlaw collapsed, clutching his shoulder. But as Ezra rushed forward, Snake Eyes pulled a dynamite stick, its fuse hissing. If I can't have her, nobody will. Ezra roared, everyone out. Miss Henderson shoved children toward the windows as Ezra tackled Snake Eyes, grappling for the dynamite. Clara, instead of fleeing, lunged, pinning the explosive between herself and the outlaw. You'll have to kill me first, she said, voice steady. With seconds left, Ezra grabbed both, hurling them toward the schoolhouse's stone foundation to absorb the blast. He shielded Clara as the dynamite exploded, collapsing the corner in a roar of smoke and debris. Silence followed, then coughing and cries. Doc Patterson reached the rubble first, pulling Clara out, alive but battered. Ezra, bloodied and unconscious, had taken the worst, his body creating a protective pocket. Snake Eyes lay dead, his reign ended by his own spite. That as Doc bandaged Ezra, Clara found a faded photograph beneath his shirt, a young woman with auburn hair, identical to her own. On the back, my beloved daughter, Emma. Love always, Papa. Clara's hands shook. You knew, she whispered to document. He nodded. Your real name is Emma Blackwood. Ezra thought you'd be safer with your aunt's family after your mother died. He watched from afar. Ezra stirred, tears falling as he saw Clara with the photograph. Emma, my little girl. Clara's voice broke. Why let me believe you were dead? He winced, sitting up. I was broken, your mother's death. I wasn't fit to raise you. But when I learned about Snake Eyes' plan, I couldn't let my failures destroy you again. Sheriff Morrison approached, mentioning a reward for Crimson Ridge gang information, but Ezra's eyes stayed on Clara. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'd like to try being your father. Clara studied the scarred man who'd saved her, not as a stranger, but as her father. My name's Clara now, she said softly. But maybe Emma Blackwood can learn to live again. As the sun set, father and daughter walked toward the farmhouse, ready to rebuild what was lost in the ashes of Dust Creek's redemption.